I thought I did that.
We can hear you.
There we are. You're good now. You're good now.
You're there.
All right, you know, it's 1:30, so I'm going to call us to order. Yep. Oh, so let me start here with our recorded message that I repeat every month. So, good afternoon. It is 1:30, and I'd like to open the COA board meeting for November 9th, 2020. This meeting is being held virtually through Zoom. The town of Littleton began conducting remote participation Zoom meetings pursuant to the Governor Baker's emergency order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law on March 19th, 2020. Since that time, unanticipated legal concerns relating to the open meeting law have been brought to our attention by the town clerk. Those concerns were supported by the Attorney General's office and confirmed by town council. One concern is that the chat function allows a parallel text conversation to a board's public meeting. Chat is essentially running commentary that is occurring, but it is not moderated or followed by the chair. All participants and listeners may not be aware of comments being made because some meeting participants join by phone and do not see these conversations. Another concern is conversations between residents within the chat room, which are not incorporated into the public record. In response to these concerns, the town will implement the following changes, which in no way prohibit any member of the public from participating in discussion and sharing information during a public meeting, and will ensure that all listeners and participants have equal access to this meeting. First, people that join the Zoom meeting are set so their microphones are muted. If you called in by phone, please use *6 to mute or unmute your phone. So that the meeting can occur in an orderly fashion, we ask that people who join keep their microphones on mute so background noise do not interfere with the meeting. If you wish to participate in the meeting, please use the raise your hand function available on Zoom, or if you called in by phone, dial *9, which is, excuse me, I'm sorry, I did that myself. So, if you, I'm going to repeat the last one. Please raise your hand function available on Zoom, or if you called in by phone, dial *9, which will activate the raise your hand function. The meeting host will notify the chairperson of the raised hands, and the chairperson will determine whether and when to allow public comment. When called upon, participants should unmute, then state their name and address. After speaking, we request the participant return their microphone back to mute. And this is a live and recorded meeting. Welcome, everybody. Good to see everybody. I think we're finally all here, with the exception of, let's see, right now it looks like Ann Lee and Wendy. And I know Ann Lee, I know Wendy is not going to be able to make it today. She's had an unexpected event occur today. So we will catch her up later on about what happened at our meeting.
And we're missing
Maureen. Yep. And so will somebody take minutes for a few minutes until she gets here? Boris, please, if you don't mind.
I will.
Thank you, Susan. All right. And I am really excited today to let everybody know that we have Joe Layden visiting us. Welcome, Joe. Good to see you. So, and I'm expecting Matthew Nordhaus also will be joining us at some point. Matthew is the member of the select board who has been, who volunteered actually to be our liaison from the select board and to work with us on the goal of getting a senior center someday. So we're excited about that. And glad that he is going to be helping us out. All right, having said all of that, excuse me. I would like to remind everybody that this is an open meeting and we have to remember to stick to the open meeting laws, which we are pretty good at by now, I think. And let's see, I see Nicole is with us and she's muted and she hasn't activated her video yet either, I don't think. Are you there, Nicole?
I am here. I'm just finishing my lunch, so I don't
Oh,
have video.
you really get a lunch break?
I
Sweet.
am here.
Well, you know, since you're here, I wanted to mention something to the board and ask you at the same time, but Nicole has been, you know, working as I think you're considered the host. Is that right? Is that the correct term? She's
Oh,
my
yeah.
helper. She's the one that lets me know if people wish to say something because I can't always, you know, see that. So, and I just wanted to mention that and ask the board members to make sure that, you know, you can use activate your raise your hand. Did you raise your hand for a reason, Anita?
I didn't raise my hand.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what I saw. Sorry. All right. But I also would like to acknowledge the fact that I think Nicole's probably not going to be with us next month when we get
I
together.
certainly hope not. As much as I love to see all of you.
I know, and we love having you, but I want to thank you, Nicole, for everything you've done for us for our meetings, because it's not an easy task to be sitting there and monitoring everybody all the time. I think it's not easy anyway. I've never had to do it, and I wanted to, on behalf of everybody, wish you well.
Thank you.
I think tomorrow is Nicole's last day, if I'm not mistaken.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
she is due Wednesday.
Yes.
So we are,
Thank you.
That.
pardon
Thank
me?
you very much.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
And, you know, we will be thinking of you. So keep in touch. I'm sure you will. So,
Send pictures.
I will. I will send a picture, I promise.
okay. So
Thank you all.
I thank you. And I see Matthew has arrived. Matthew, I introduced or spoke about Joe being gracious enough to be with us, and we are grateful that you're here too.
I was here for that. I was in the cheap seats.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you. And I have one other announcement, and then I will open it up to the board members or anyone that might have an announcement. But I wanted to call the board's attention and any of our viewers' attention to the 2 meetings that are coming up. Tonight, the select board's meeting. Actually, I'm looking for the time, if I'm not mistaken, it's at around 6:50 p.m. on their agenda. There's a couple of items that might be of interest to people. And one is that Maren Toohill will be talking about the Hager Homestead project, and there's a housing choice action grant she's going to be speaking about, which would be good information for us to be aware of. And also around 6:50, Ashley's on the agenda, and she's going to be talking about the senior tax work-off program and acceptance of the gift from Ed's Weenies. And 2 other individuals, Kathy Coughlin will be recognized for the wonderful job she did with a senior citizens request in Littleton. And Kathy stepped up to the plate and held a yard sale at the request of this senior citizen to raise some money for the senior center. So, and then Ashley's also going to be speaking about Robert Adams. So just want to mention those things, folks. If you have nothing else to do, pay attention tonight to the select board's meeting. And then the planning board this week on Thursday on the 12th, they also have a couple of agenda items which would be interesting. They're going to be talking a little bit more about some permits for the Hager Homestead and discuss a potential zoning bylaw amendment about inclusionary housing and senior residential developments. So it's information that we need to keep, a handle on and stay informed about. Just saying, so everybody knows. And if you're available to take in one or two, both of these events, it would be probably good. Having said that, do any of the board members have announcements? Welcome, Ann Lee.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Any other announcements? All right. If not, I'd like to also suggest that we might take our, agenda items a little bit out of order, maybe, or at least give Joe Layden time to talk at the beginning of our meeting, if it's okay with everyone. I know he's got a full plate, not to say that Matthew doesn't either, but we'll get to Matthew too. So, but I just was thinking it would be probably nice for Joe if we could have a conversation with him right now. And I think I'm understanding that he's here to give us an update on Indian Hill. Is that right, Joe?
Yes, and just as long as I preface it with, it's not much of an update, but at least things are moving in a direction.
Well, that's a good thing.
So, thanks, March, and I'll just jump in. As everyone knows, last year, and it was like February, I think towards the end of February, we had a presentation from LB regarding alternatives analysis for space needs study. And within that presentation, they had said the DCU building that was being looked at really was not a recommended location for either relocating town services, senior center, or even for municipal use. So part of what later that spring and then over the summer we learned was that Indian Hill was looking at potentially selling their property. They are building a new facility in Groton, and it's still going to take another 1.5 to 2 years for them to complete it. But that would line up well with trying to look and see what could happen with town of Littleton and meeting our space needs. So towards the end of the summer, was in the process of negotiating a revised contract with them for architectural services. We got that taken care of, and now it's been arranging with Indian Hill how to gain access to the building. They currently are really limited as far as when they have the building open. But we did schedule, and it was confirmed this morning by email, that they're going to be going in on Thursday to bring in the architects as well as some engineers to look at the space. The contract basically estimates about 30 days from when they first get access to the building to start providing recommendations. So I'd anticipate either sometime in December or January then to have a draft report or findings to then go back to the select board for recommendations on how that could meet needs of the community. It was important for us to get some of this analysis work done so that as we start preparing for May town meeting, if there is anything that we're going to take to town meeting for funding, that then we have that time to do that.
Well, that's exciting. I think it's exciting anyway. I don't know about anybody else. We've made progress. I think COVID helped slow everything down. For
Yes,
sure.
correct.
Yep.
And a lot of the work that was done previously as far as the needs for space from various departments, Council on Aging, EHS, that's still valuable information that is still relevant as they look at the Indian Hill facility. And I think it does afford the town some really unique opportunities that I'm really excited for. Can't wait for them to start work and to start presenting some of their findings for the town to start having a discussion.
Joe, you're referring to back when they gave out the, that packet. It was a large packet of architects' drawings and things and it had all of the space needs of all of the departments in town and everything on it. So yes, I think I pulled mine out this past week, as a matter of fact, to refresh my memory, actually, because it's been a while. But there is a lot of good information involved in that report itself.
Yeah.
You're right. So great. And I think board members, if you all do not have copies, some of you may not, especially newer board members. I know the entire board received the entire packet. They're fairly large architect's drawings, et cetera, in several pages. So please speak up and maybe we can get a copy for you. I think Ashley has a copy in the office. Yeah. And I know I have a copy. And Susan, you're nodding your head. You do too?
I have a copy.
Okay, but if anybody does not, please, and you would like it, it's good information. So I don't know whether Mark has one. I don't know where Mark went. There he is. He's right in front of me. So
I'll look and see if I have one or not.
okay, if not, we can get one. Certainly for the vision subcommittee, it would be good information for you to have, easily accessible information. So, okay. Thank you, Joe. That's really great. Are there any questions for Joe? And Joe, you can stay.
I am planning on staying. Yes.
Okay. Well, I don't want you to feel like you got to leave, but I didn't want to hold you up either. So,
No.
Okay. Any questions for Joe on that whole project? No. Okay. Well, thank you ever so much, because I think everybody's been kind of thinking about it and wondering where we were with that.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. Then I'm going to take us back to the agenda, and we will quickly do, is there anyone, Nicole, are you still there? Anybody from the public that wishes to speak at this point?
Nobody's
Okay.
raising their hand yet.
Okay, that's a good thing, probably. Thank you. If not, then we can move on to agenda item number 4, to accept the minutes of the October 19th meeting. And Maureen's here now. She's changed her first name to Shayla, but that's Maureen, really. So,
And Maureen can go for taking minutes.
you're right. Maureen, I had Susan pinch hitting for you when you weren't here when we first started, so.
We're not giving her a break. Just
And I don't know where she went now. I don't see her, but
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think she got kicked off or logged. Oh, she's
Oh,
back.
there she is. She's back.
we scared her away.
So did you hear, Maureen, when I was saying that Susan took minutes at the beginning of the meeting for you? Nope, she's still muted and not working.
Thank you so much, Susan.
Okay, all right.
You're welcome.
Okay.
I've been trying for 15 minutes to get on. I am so frustrated.
Oh, it is frustrating when that happens. Trust me. All right. Is there any discussion about the minutes of the October 19th meeting? No?
I do have one question,
Okay.
and it's kind of stupid since I did these minutes. But it says that Wendy Samarco was absent. And further down, it says that Wendy voted. So what I'm questioning is, does anybody remember, did Wendy come in later?
Yes.
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 Okay.
And late.
But she
Thank
was
you.
present and she did participate in voting. I just reviewed the minutes, that meeting myself today earlier. So I do think we need to make that correction in the minutes. She was present.
Well, it's not that it's incorrect. Well, I don't know. All right.
Yeah, well, I just asked for members present and she was present for
Yep.
a good portion of the meeting. So,
Okay.
I would suggest that would be a correction. However, she is not going to be with us today, Maureen, if you were here when I made that announcement. So
No.
don't get the days concerned, but. All right. Do I have a motion to, any other questions about the minutes?
I make a motion to accept the minutes of October 19th
Thank you, Anita.
with the correction.
Second.
Who's
Thank you.
second?
Susan? Susan, okay, thank you both. All right, any further discussion? If not, we'll do a roll call vote. Mary,
Yes.
thank you. Susan,
Yes.
Wendy Snow, Maureen,
Yes.
Anita,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Ann Lee,
Yes.
and Marge is a yes. Thank you. All right. Do we have anyone from the Friends with us? Oh. I sent them the link to the meeting, actually. I'm hoping they're, oh, Dottie's here. So maybe we can. Dottie, can you hear us?
She's muted.
Yep. And she hasn't started her video, it looks like. We'll give her a minute or two, and she and Nicole.
Is Nicole here?
She was here. She was finishing her lunch, but she was talking to us. So yes, I don't know what has happened.
Okay.
We may need to move on. Why don't we, I'm suggesting that we move on, then we can move down to the old business, and if they become active, kind of interrupt ourselves. Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. Why don't we do that? I can't do much about it here. And I'm not sure exactly what's happened. But under the old business, the first agenda item was finalizing the goals for 2020 and 2021. And I just wanted to offer an apology because I do believe at the last meeting, I said I would send a handout out, and I have not done that for a couple of reasons. One was that we were still a little bit in limbo with the housing subcommittee issue, and we'll talk more about that later on. I do think we have now, will be able to firmly establish our goals. And I'm going to throw out a couple of suggestions. We've talked about everything pretty much. We have 3 areas that we're focusing on this year. Affordable housing, and that was where we got hung up a little bit, and we're going to spend some time talking about that. But basically, I think the goal I'm going to run this by you now, and we'll come back at the end of the meeting, hopefully, and finalize and either agree or disagree. But housing, I think the general goal is to promote, explore, and improve housing for senior living with an ABC under that. And A is to ID current availability. B is to explore apartment complexes, condo units. And C, whether or not to do a survey or contribute to a survey if there's another one going on in town. And that pretty much is a broad overview of the housing issue, affordable housing issue. The second big area is under the senior center title. And I'm suggesting that promote the development of a new center for EHS COA is the overarching goal. And under that would be identify a new term for a senior center to attract a broader demographic to use the facility. And to, number 2, promote EHS COA to people who consider themselves non-seniors. And basically that covers a whole big wide area of need, I think. And we can add to that or not, but. And then the third goal is, and it was established at our last meeting, was to revisit the tax work-off program parameters sometime January, February of 2021. So
What was the third goal?
to revisit the tax work-off program
Thank you.
parameters. Okay. So basically, that's kind of, that summarizes, I think, what we're going to be, what we are working on and have been working on. We just hadn't gotten the wording down. So, and I'll go back to Nicole. I see she's here. Dottie is not visible, but her name is up on the screen here. Do you see her, Nicole?
Yes, I do.
Okay, we bypassed the Friends report. And I
Oh,
didn't know
okay.
whether-
She should be able to unmute herself. She's a panelist.
I know. I don't know if I'm not getting a response from her.
I can try unmuting her and see if it.
There she goes.
Yep, that's Dottie. Are you there? I don't know what happened.
I unmuted her.
Thank you, Amber.
She should be able to talk now if she's.
I don't think she's there, actually. Well, we're just going to move on then. So I'm going to suggest that we actually do not vote on those goals right at the moment, but we finish the, go on to our discussion of reactivation of the Affordable Housing Subcommittee, because that played into things, and a tremendous amount of work has been done actually in regard to affordable housing. And having said that, I think you all received a document this morning, actually, from Patty, a revised document, which summarizes the work that Anita and Patty have been doing in the last couple of weeks around the issue of affordable housing in town. And I'm going to turn it over to Patty and Anita at this point and let them take off with it, because they've done a huge amount of work and I want to thank them for it. So go for it.
Well, Anita has done the footwork in obtaining all the statistics that are on page 1 of that document. All I did was try to put it in some kind of order. Knowing what the goal is, I just kind of rewrote the top sentence, which could still be worked out. And it's the last sentence of the activities of the subcommittee really can be performed independently, but as well as in conjunction with other vested entities, the planning board, the select board, and the Affordable Housing Trust Committee. In looking at what was suggested for the subcommittee last month with 5 members, I personally think 3 members is enough for the committee. We have a 9-member COA board, and having 5 members on it, that's half the board. I think that's a little too much, but that's just a personal recommendation. And I'd be more than glad to step aside. So, there's one less. One of the steps to this subcommittee would be to identify what's available in town. And Anita, I had a few of them, but Anita went to all the trouble to get the list of what is available in town. And I've identified them here based on all the documents that she received from the assessor and the number of units that are available. Now, what we don't know, and hopefully we're assuming that they're occupied by seniors. So that's something that can be pursued by the committee. It looks like a lot, but when you base it on the population of the town, it's not a lot. Even the village green down off of Great Road there, they were built and they were filled to capacity quite quickly. We have a lot available in town. We know about the Hager Homestead, but that's not going to be built for about 2 years. So going on to a next step, working with the vested entities, I'm suggesting as a board, the subcommittee, that we would plan a meeting, who's ever on the board, the subcommittee, with the planning board to see who they're talking to, what's being proposed that we don't know about, related to housing for the seniors. Are there any bylaws in the pipeline we don't know about that would impact housing? And I think most of us watched the affordable housing meeting last meeting in October there. They obviously have a very vested interest in housing. So it's in our best interest to be really working with them. Now, when I watched that meeting, Mr. Field was talking about posing down at Minuteman a number of small little bungalow units, 100 of them or so, that would all be for seniors in town at $300,000. But that's not going anywhere according to the information I've received from the planning board. So getting involved actively with that particular board or committee, I think, is critical. Doing a survey, I think, would benefit the town and our board. And I've sort of said, it needs to be short, specific, collate that information and share it with these vested entities so that we're working together. And you can read the rest of it for yourself. But that's what I came up with after getting all the information from Anita. I think it's important to re-up the subcommittee. That's my proposal, my recommendation.
And we did, actually, as you said, we did kind of talk about that at the last meeting, and 5 people were interested in participating.
Yeah.
Now, the 5 people, Maureen, I remember, said she would help out. She is on the Affordable Housing Trust. And
I certainly would be willing to step back.
well, and that's, I was going to say, actually having 5 members is a quorum of the board too, which is sometimes it's too much. So, there's plenty of work to be done. So, I mean, there's going to be plenty of opportunities to participate and to help with different projects. So, yes, Anita.
The one thing about the report that Patty put together that I had gone to the town to find out, we're talking about all of these units as being available. None of them are available.
Exactly.
They are all either rented or homeowners. So nothing that's listed on this page is available for a senior to walk into today. They're all gone. I think it's going to be difficult to determine how many of those units are housed by seniors other than the ones that are housed for the over 55. And we can go to planning board or whatever to find out what was built just for over 55. But for the condos like over on Charles Ridge and stuff, they're owner occupied, and I don't know how you'd find out if they're seniors or not. The one thing that struck me about that housing trust meeting was how much information, how much work had been done that we were not even aware of. That whole report that was given in that last meeting, that we as a board we didn't even know that was happening, or I didn't know that was happening. So I think it's really, really important to be working very closely with that trust, because they seem to have the money. They went out and spent the money. They got the research done, and they presented this big program with all kinds of information. And we don't want to duplicate that.
I think, and that was where, I think that's where Ashley, I don't want to put words in her mouth either, but I think that was her concern, and that was why she, and I understand, Anita, I think you helped her get, or somebody helped her get the tape of that meeting.
Not me.
Well, Maureen did it. Thank you, Maureen. I forgot. I'm sorry. I knew somebody else had worked with Ashley on that. And so between the two of them, Ashley attends those meetings, and coincidentally, Matthew does. Matthew's on the Affordable Housing Trust. So we have an opportunity right here now even to start to try to figure out how can the COA board work to help and work with the Affordable Housing Trust. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. None of us need to waste our time on anything. So I don't know how we can we have good representation there. We have Maureen, Ashley, and Matthew. So somehow we've got to be able to figure out and carve a way to be able to work together with them, I think. And I know I think Cindy would welcome that too. So Matthew, do you have anything you want to add?
Yeah, I have actually a lot. I'm really interested in this affordable housing, and I've been looking at it from the select board side and from the Affordable Housing Trust side, and also from the Littleton Station Area Committee, which is moving forward on that front as well. Did you guys all of you fine, ladies and gentlemen, get the documents that Nancy put together for the Affordable Housing Trust?
No, we haven't received that. Maureen's shaking her head. She did receive it.
Let me forward them to you, because there's it's sort of a ridiculous amount of information. She collected a whole bunch of documents and data and studies that had been done, partly for the master plan here in Littleton, and I don't know where she got the rest of it, but there was a lot of information, as those of you who watched the meeting know. I think as far as Littleton Station, we are moving forward with probably a 40R development, which is it's affordable. Actually, Joe could speak to it more than I. He knows more of the details, but essentially it allows us to do more high density housing, and some of it will be designated as affordable by the state. And we could do apartment buildings if we wanted to. We could do townhouses, and that, I think, is still a ways away, but absolutely represents a location where I can see some dense and affordable units showing up. And I mean both affordable as in the state designated deed restricted affordable, but also just less expensive houses, which I think is more of the problem. Honestly, it's not that we have deed restricted things. Those are hard to get into, as you probably know. Like, the income requirements are quite low, and many people here in town don't qualify for them. So let's see what else.
Another thing, I don't mean to interrupt you,
No, go
Matt,
ahead.
but another thing that was talked about is that there will need to be a zoning bylaw change in order for the apartments at the Littleton Station.
Yeah, so I think, no, actually, that's if we do 40R, is that a zoning change, Joe?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah. But it's like a preset sort of set of zoning bylaws that the state endorses. So you don't have to go through all of the design and stuff for making sure that all the bylaws are accurate. You have a structure to work with the state. And the state is really interested in that because it's adjacent to the MBTA terminal. It's one of the reasons why it's such a good fit for them, and we're optimistic that it'll go through. I guess the last thing I would say is I've watched the Hager Homestead meetings and the Jones Meadow, and it does feel, I think the planning board shared some of the frustrations with the low number of affordable units that was put into Jones Meadow. And to some extent, I think they really pushed on Hager Homestead to increase the number, and Hager Homestead did. And I did walk the Minuteman campground with the Fields and Jerry Portante from the planning board. And I don't know what you have heard, Patty, but the last time when I spoke to them, like Jerry seemed to think that it was doable and that they could get, 100 or more units in there at a reasonable price. So, Matt Field seemed very enthusiastic about doing it. He feels like the lack of affordable houses is a big problem and he wants to fix it. And that seems like a great location. So I hope that does go through, because I think that would solve a lot of problems and it would give us a giant inventory of houses for a long time.
Great, thank you. Yes, Mark.
So I will admit that I didn't watch the entire meeting, but I watched the beginning of that Affordable Housing Trust meeting. And from my perspective, it doesn't seem like you necessarily need more affordable houses as you need more affordable apartments, right, coming out of this. So the field development on the campground might be nice, but it's still, they're not particularly cheap units, and they're not necessarily solving the need that was outlined in that Affordable Housing Trust meeting. So I think it should be a combination of the COA, the Affordable Housing Trust, and the Planning Board working together to figure out what the best developments are going forward to change the bylaws to allow more apartment units and things that would actually open up more, potentially more, I'm not saying affordable houses, but the cheaper houses in town, giving more options to people than you're necessarily going to get by redeveloping the Minuteman campground. That's my take.
Yeah, it was very interesting, actually. So when Jerry Portante was talking to Matt Field, Jerry said, you don't want to do 300 individual houses. You want to do 60% apartments and 40% townhouses or small individual standalone houses, because that way we can use the existing senior bylaw to get it built. So I think that actually that they're sort of, they seem to be heading in that direction already. I agree with you. When I say affordable houses, I don't necessarily mean houses. I mean affordable places to live, whether it's apartments or townhouses or cottages or garden apartments or whatever. But yes, you're 100% right.
I also think that if you're developing something like that, the seniors in the community should be generally pulled, as in, do you really want 100 senior houses in one location, or do you want a mixed age development over there? Because 100 seniors off in that corner of town all by themselves would seem pretty isolated to me, right? It's not near any services in town or anything, right? And a mixed age development over there would seem to be a better fit. But again, that's my take after watching an hour meeting.
My understanding from that meeting, Matt's proposal was mixed ages.
I'm sorry. I believe that's right. In fact, again, Joe, you might know better than I don't know if we can age restrict those buildings.
Oh.
We're able to do some. There's different levels of age restrictions so that you could do it so that one person is 50 and over, and eliminate any restrictions that doesn't allow kids. But I think one of the issues is that the current senior housing overlay district, with recent changes that were approved by town meeting, that location currently would not meet that standard. There are other avenues that we could utilize. There's people would often know it as a friendly 40B. but it's called Local Initiative Program, where you work with planning board and specifically the board of selectmen, select board, to approve a project. And that may actually give more flexibility. The question ends up being as far as availability of infrastructure. They'd have to get sewer from air for any sort of density that would then help with affordability. You'd really want to have it provided by sewer. So there is some potential. It becomes a question as far as, is that in a location where we'd want to see higher density affordable housing versus closer to the center and the common area, which is what's in the master plan.
Wow, a lot of information to digest. Does anyone have any questions for anyone, actually?
What does Matthew think the members of the COA board could be doing to help the trust?
I think when one of these projects comes closer to being realized, I do think that some input from, your group and the demographic in town about what they really want would be very valuable. If we build 100 apartments and no one from Littleton is interested in living in them, that doesn't do us any good at all. So whether people want apartments or very small homes or townhouses, that sort of information would be useful. I also think making sure that the lines of communication are open. Like I'm very happy that there's this common desire between Affordable Housing Trust and the Station Area Committee and this council on the same things. And as a result, I think I can represent all of them to each other as I go through the meetings and have information about what's going on. There may be other boards in town that also are going, like the planning board is a great example, that are going to need to be involved in this that I don't really have any connection with. And I'm not sure what connections you have or whether you can help this process forward by engaging with those other boards.
Mark Montanari from Affordable Housing is on the planning board.
Yes,
That's right. That's right.
true. Yep.
That's correct. And so it's I think you people, the Affordable Housing Trust is a powerful group. A lot of great representation, really, when you think about it. So, and Patty, I think you're head on. She's been talking about the need for a survey. And I think also the Affordable Housing Trust has mentioned it too. So that might be something that we could be helpful with and starting to help and then work together with the Affordable Housing Trust on. I don't know, Ashley, where are you in this? What do you think?
I mean, I think I would just echo Matthew's comments when he said everyone is focused in on similar subject matter. It's just a matter of getting everyone on the same page and engaged and to move forward and however best we can work together to serve the community best.
I'd like to offer out too one other thought. I think as far as the planning board goes, I'd go back to when the library, Mark, was working so diligently to try to obtain their objectives and get the new library. And I vividly remember how there were always 3, 4, 5 people from the library at select board meetings, always, whether or not anything was said about anything by anybody. But visibility pays and it's helpful. So I think that's one of the things that COA board can do with the planning board also, and with the select board, but perhaps with the planning board more specifically. That would be one of the functions of the subcommittee. The housing subcommittee is maybe to help achieve that goal of having visibility at their meetings.
It's easier than ever.
Yes, but it speaks, it does have an impact, I think.
Oh, yeah.
People are very aware when there's somebody, in the audience, and even on Zoom, people are aware, so.
Absolutely agree.
Just want to.
I would add the Affordable Housing Trust to that list too. If you're going to, I mean, you need to be, you
Right.
need to be at all of the meetings.
Well, we don't have access to those meetings. They're not televised or Zoomed, are they?
They are open meetings. They're absolutely, yes, they
And we've been meeting Zoom since April, maybe.
Really? Okay. Well, there you go. So I didn't know that either. How do you get the Zoom link for that?
I think it's on the town website.
On the way, their agendas?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay, there we go.
Yes.
It should be on the agenda. So,
Well, we have a meeting tomorrow, so I could send you the link for tomorrow's meeting.
oh, there you go. Well, yeah,
Please- please
you
do.
are a direct link, Maureen, so that maybe you could always inform the board about the meetings and when they're happening too. To everybody, that might be helpful. So,
So Marge, one of the way the libraries organized this was for all of the meetings, we'd have, we'd have two representatives that were responsible for the selectmen's meeting. And if the primary couldn't go, they made sure that the secondary could be there. And if the secondary couldn't be there, then we'd call out the rest. So it's not a bad policy to just go through and say, you know, who wants to go to the selectmen's meetings, pick two people, who wants to go to the planning board meetings,
Right.
so on. And then if some reason they can't make it, you know, then you say to the rest of the COA board that, you know, we need a representative at the selectmen's meeting this week, who can make it, right? And so then you always know that you have a presence, so.
okay. And I think that would probably speak for both issues, actually, when you're talking about it, because the senior center and the housing issue are both big key issues. And so it would apply to both topics.
So I have another kind of question along this 40R and the developments and things like at the station. There's the possibility of like apartments and then potential townhouses. Is there more where we can have like an independent living type situation where it's not straight apartments, you know, but there's more services available at the apartment complex than there would be? Is that under consideration too? And how does that go about happening?
That is under consideration along with other mixed use commercial development. I think we are actually, some of it is adjacent to the Life Care Center. So there's some possibility they might be interested in, like supporting assisted living or, transitional living or something like that. It's so early on that I have no idea whether that will come to fruition, but it's absolutely one of the things that we're considering as there's a whole range of possible development stuff there.
Does that also require bylaw changes?
I don't know. That's a question for I assume so, but I don't know. I think any change of use up there is probably that isn't just straight 1 acre residential is probably going to require a zoning change, but it's going to be a package change. We're going to change the whole chunk at once, essentially, with a vote at town meeting. And we're going to begin that, I think, this coming spring with the first chunk of it, which is the area immediately adjacent to the train station and uphill a bit from it.
Okay, thank you.
I have one more go ahead.
No.
Yeah, Matt, this is Dave Sill. Referring back to the meeting that, the AHT meeting, where Matt Fields was there. And I'm not sure if I heard him right, but I thought he said that the last two projects that he didn't work out as well as he wanted to. Did I get that wrong or?
No, you got it right.
Okay, could you expand on what was intended, did he say? Because I'm not sure if I remember that.
So I can only speak to the Jones Meadow one. I'm not sure whether the other one he was referring to was Cooper Farm. And if it was, I don't know what went wrong there. For Jones Meadow, there were two issues. One of them was
You mean the Jones Meadow is not Matt Field's development, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Cricket Drive, the one on Spectacle Pond.
That's not Matt Fields.
No,
You mean the one over by the high
Kennard.
school?
Oh,
Yeah,
that's right.
That's
What-
The
Kennard.
Willows or the one over by the high school, the Weber.
Weber,
Okay, right, Weber Village. He said that between the time they started framing the first house and finished framing the last one, the cost of his materials doubled.
Right, I
Literally
remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
he said
remember
that was one of the big drivers for the pricing of the actual units. That it took the base price up a substantial amount to the point where, they didn't really end up that affordable.
Okay.
I don't know the other one. I think the other one was Cooper Farm, and I can't remember what the issue with that one was. But
Well, I don't know, I'm not sure, but it seemed to me that at the time that the prices of Cooper Farm were pretty high. And it was, for some senior to look to downsize, it would have been almost a sideways or an upside or upways kind of a thing, so.
I got the impression from that meeting that he was kind of as frustrated as we were with the way things turned out, so.
It seems so.
Yeah, and
seems
the
so.
way he spoke about the Minuteman campground, I got the same sort of sense that he really wanted to do something that was truly affordable.
Right. Okay.
I also got the feeling he was upset about the Cooper thing because there were no Littleton people that ended up in there.
Yeah,
and
that's
that
right.
was one of the things he seems to be pushing for is to try to make it somehow a preference for Littleton seniors or Littleton families or.
Yeah, I think somebody said in that meeting that there's a way that you can make it a large number of Littleton people eligible, but not entirely so.
Yeah, there has, I think, especially with the 40R, the state does have some rights to some of the units to go into the statewide lottery. Joe?
There's just limits on the ability to specifically designate for local preference because of fair housing laws. However, in my experience, most of the problems that towns run into as far as a project that does not get as much local people that they may have thought really ends up being the qualifications. And also, did we make sure that we understood the needs and abilities of Littleton residents to then qualify for those programs. So sometimes if we're a little bit more, promote things ourselves a little bit more, we might be able to get more support. If we don't actively try, then once it gets out that there's units available, it gets on the state website and all that. And just majority of people then are say from out of town. So that's where I think getting a better understanding as far as what the needs are of the residents and seniors to make sure that we can craft something is a good effort to do. And especially if the COA is undertaking and working with others to do a housing survey, I think it just gives us better understanding as far as what people need, and also get to understand if someone's selling their house because they want to downsize, understanding what that process looks like. You get people that don't apply because they don't quite know how that process would work.
I do think maybe there was a point made in that meeting to Matt that maybe the reason why there were no Littleton residents at Cooper was because no Littleton residents wanted to move in there. That it just wasn't the right kind of house. And I think that's, as Joe just pointed out, we need to know what people want. It does no good to build a bunch of units that nobody moves into.
I also think it has to do with the price.
Right. Well, I mean, whatever.
I mean, Cooper Farm is just outrageously pricey.
Yep. Like whatever the criteria, clearly price is one, and I think size is one, and maintenance is probably one, and community or support and ancillary services is one. All those things are important.
Well, I think going forward too, you want to look at a house that's all on one floor and you walk in with one step. You don't go into an underground garage and have to walk up 10 steps with your groceries to get to your level. Mm-hmm. You want to keep everything flat, like they did over in Weber and they're doing over in Cricket. It's all on one level. And that's what the elderly are going to need. Do away with stairs, or if you're going to be in a big apartment, have the elevators available.
Right, they have to have elevators.
You can't possibly do it any other way. Yep. But I know going forward, I wouldn't want to downsize from my house and go somewhere where I still had to go up a full flight of stairs to get from the garage into my house
Yeah.
with my groceries. I just,
So can I ask a related but not entirely? So we're looking at potentially like 5-ish senior developments going into town or around town in various locations that are, it's not a central location. We're talking about a COA and office in a couple different locations that aren't necessarily tied to or close to any of these other developments. How are we tying this all together so that it's more of a cohesive plan so that the senior center is in the right location for where the senior housing or everything is, right? Like Indian Hill might be close to the Weber development, but it's not close to the train station or the Hager property. And when all of these things are disjoint, it seems like there needs to be a higher level plan that these individual committees can't be, aren't necessarily aware of and can't be driving on their own.
Good point. I don't think, yeah, nobody's driving that bus, I don't think.
I think it's driven by the land.
I was just gonna say, I think there's not much, is there much land around the common area anymore? You know, everybody always has talked about keeping it centrally located near the common and everything, a senior center. But the reality is, you know, you can't, Shattuck Street is not close to, you know, you're right, the train station at all. There's quite a little distance there, you know, but it's not that far in the reality of things either.
But even Indian Hill, if you think about it, is not that far away in terms of even Hager. So maybe it's what, a mile? I mean, it's not something that people could or would necessarily plan on walking, but they could.
It's 2 miles and there's not complete sidewalks there. And you'd be
Here we
crossing
go
the
with
street at least
sidewalks.
twice. You'd be crossing the street at least twice.
Wow.
There we go. Sidewalks.
So I mean, maybe it's part of these. I know that there's a shuttle from the train station to IBM into town and things, and you can solve some of these issues. But as we build all these disparate units, you know, if there's going to be a common central place like a COA for people to come visit, then we better figure out how they're getting there, whether they have cars or not, right? So
now we've got the highway department and the transportation committee involved. So pretty soon, everyone in town will be working on this.
And then nothing will get accomplished.
We'll just have to pick the best 3 people to just be dictators, I think.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, it's just something that seems to be an overarching thing. It would be really nice to have a senior center, but if it's a place that, you know, is out of the way and no one can get to it, then okay. If you really solved your problem.
An excellent point.
Mary.
Well, I was just going to say, we started off talking about housing, and now we've expanded to socialization. Next, we'll be doing medical. I mean, let's pick the topic that we're on. We're not going to solve the problems of the world. So, I mean, let's, and from my perspective, we need to deal with the topic. The topic was housing, not what we're going to do with them when we get them in there. That's a separate entity. I mean, let's be real here, guys. Littleton doesn't. I mean, that was one of the, when we started talking DCU in a senior center, there was a big hullabaloo because it's on a major thoroughfare, a state highway, crossing Donalds to there. There's no sidewalk, there's no lights, there's no sidewalk on one side, there is on the opposite side. That was a big issue. We're talking about living in the town of Littleton as a senior in hopefully a place that they can afford.
But not isolated.
So I'm just saying, we've spent 20 minutes now talking about how to get them to socialize. The topic is housing. I think we should go back to housing.
Good point.
I won't say any more. I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. You brought us back. Thank you. One thing always leads to another, it seems, and it is so easy to let that happen. So, but And ultimately, I think we all want the same thing, and we're all looking for direction. But I think we've come up with some ideas, and we certainly have opened a dialogue today, which hopefully will continue and we can expand upon. The survey, I'm hearing, it seems to me that a survey certainly is needed, and it can be a collaborative effort putting it together, you know, so we can pursue that, find out how, you know, between Matthew and Maureen and Ashley attends the Affordable Housing Trust meetings also. They can give us feedback on that group's thinking about a survey, and then maybe we can, you know, start putting our heads together about questions that we think should be asked on the survey, etc. So that might be one concrete thing that we can start to work on. Excuse me, somebody's trying to say something.
Yeah, I was just trying to, just because, and I know other people are on it and have been looking at this much longer than I've been with the town. As part of any survey, if you can also include, you know, would you prefer to stay in your existing house, and what are some of the challenges that you face, whether it's improvements that may be needed to make it energy efficient or things like that. Making sure that we capture what people would like to do, you know, staying in their existing house versus looking to move elsewhere, to really identify if there may be additional programs that could be of help either through COA or EHS or the Affordable Housing Trust to keep seniors in their homes as well. So any survey should also include that type of information.
Good point. Thank you, Joe. Yes, Matt.
So that was a topic I was going to bring up, and I'll be very brief. Acton has a program through their Affordable Housing Committee, I can't remember what it's called, that offers grants to affordable, to deed restricted houses, which to do improvements like a new roof or a furnace. And I spoke to Cindy briefly about that, and she said, well, most of the money we have in the Affordable Housing Trust we put into is from community preservation, and we put it into the housing bucket because the state matches it. But that really limits what we can do with the money. We can't spend it on maintenance. And so if we did have a survey and there was information about whether people could use that sort of help, it might help guide the Affordable Housing Trust to say that we're going to take some of that money and not put it into the housing bucket, because then we have more latitude to spend it on things like giving a $3,000 grant to somebody to rehab their furnace, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I would be interested in knowing. That would be an important thing to know.
Okay. Good points. Yes, David.
Yeah, I think a survey is a really great idea. And I'm just wondering, we're all talking about it, and even some of the questions you want to put on it, who's gonna put the survey together? Whose responsibility actually is that?
Yours.
Thanks. No, I mean, is it EHS, COA, or is it higher than that? Is it the select board or somebody designated by the select board? I mean, it's a great idea and we should get it going. So rather than be asking what are we going to put on it, who's going to start it, and then let's go from there.
Or is it something that we need outside advice on about? I don't know. I know some people are skilled at putting surveys together, and there's a lot to consider, I guess, with how you phrase questions, et cetera, too, to get the answers you want.
It's probably something worthwhile at least discussing as with the next Affordable Housing Trust and also with the town planner, because I understand that what is it, the Middlesex Housing Collaborative, I forget exactly the name of the agency.
The Metro West.
Metro West.
Yeah, Metro West. That Maren had said that there was some senior housing survey that they were looking at doing. So it may be just trying to make sure that we're connecting the right people and making sure all these dots are connected.
Okay. Thank you, Joe. Maureen, can you follow up on that with the the Affordable Housing Trust?
So we're looking to know, is there a survey or is a survey being developed?
Affordable or even considered.
Yeah, where is all of that, you know, just ask the questions and see what you can find out.
And a time frame.
And if there is a survey going forward, could we have a copy to send out? If it's a statewide survey that's being done?
No, this would be Littleton specific.
Okay,
But I'll follow up with Marin, and either I'll let Matthew and Ashley know to connect back with you
Right,
on what's being planned. And I think that if there was such a survey being planned, that there would be a benefit to review with, say, not only COA, but then also with Affordable Housing Trust to make sure that there are comments. If there are comments, that people can provide those.
And the stationary committee would probably like to know that too.
Exactly. Yep.
great. Well, this is kind of exciting, I think. It's very exciting. The thought of having groups in town work together collaboratively is exciting to me. So I really am, and I think it's a good way to go, and we can work toward improving it. So, do we have other comments or questions? Actually, we've,
did we make a decision whether we're going to have a subcommittee or not?
well, that's where I was just going back to. Yes, Ashley.
Sorry, just one additional comment as it relates to the survey. I know the EHS Vision Subcommittee had also mentioned a possible community-wide survey to see what types of programs and services folks are looking for from our department in the future. And maybe those questions could be worked in to this housing survey. I know we don't want to cross mingle some of the different categories, but I think they are somewhat all connected in a way. So I just wanted to mention that. I know Mark is planning to give an update at some point during the meeting as well.
Right. Thank you. Actually, I would like to go back though to, I think Anita raised the question, and I have that, I'm looking at the agenda myself, and as far as making a decision, I think we need to come to an agreement on the size of the affordable housing subcommittee. It's been talked about reducing it from 5 to 3 members. And I'd like to know the board's feeling about that so that we can proceed. And Maureen's already said she would, I think, be one that she is on the Affordable Housing Trust, so she's going to be involved anyway, but she wouldn't necessarily have to attend all of the subcommittee meetings that way. So
That will bring us to 4.
pardon me? That would
bring us to 4.
to 4. And that means Wendy's not here. I know she's not able to attend today, so I can talk to her about that. She may not be able to be too active on it right away. I don't know. So
So that would leave Anita and Mary and
No.
Mark.
No.
No,
Susan and Mary.
I'm on it.
I didn't hear the question.
We're talking about the people that would be on, the 3 people that would be on the subcommittee.
You mean the total number?
No, who the 3 people would be.
Oh, okay. So who has said yes?
Did we already decide to make it 3 people?
No, not formally. So we're down to 4. We know Maureen is saying she can easily step back.
Okay.
So we are down to 4 people.
All
Is
right.
there a problem with leaving it at 5, other than the fact that it's a quorum?
I don't think we need 5, but then again, we're
Okay.
taking on a challenge. I mean, that was the feeling. People didn't think we needed 5 people. We could leave it at 4.
I think most committees are usually odd numbered.
Right, it makes it better for voting purposes. So I agree with you, Maureen. However, there are 4 on the Vision Subcommittee. So what do you want to do, guys?
So who is the other person?
Who's the other person? Let me think now. Wait a minute.
It's Patty and myself and David, and then we
David.
have Maureen and Wendy.
Yeah.
Those are 5.
So
All right, so I'm gone.
that's, yes. So it's Wendy, David, Susan, and Patty. And I will talk to Wendy. I can't speak for her today. So we can't, I can't do much about that. I do think that she's had some difficulties, in getting over a few health issues. That's why she, has not been with us a lot. But I do not know where she's at with that.
So can we just make it 4? And if Wendy doesn't want to participate, then it's down to 3 and we leave it at that?
I think that's a great idea. 4 is fine. I mean, 4 works. It's an easier group too in this day and age of Zoom meetings. I think 4 is an easier number to deal with. So, all right, why don't we do that? And taking it to the next step then, we will proceed with Mary. Did you hear me all right? Because I know it's hard for Mary to hear too. We're
And
going,
you've eaten nothing but junk.
we're going to leave it at 4 people. 4 people.
Okay.
And then if that's too many, we will revisit that next month.
Okay.
Okay?
And who are the 4?
The 4 are Mary, David, Susan,
Susan.
and Wendy.
Okay.
Correct? I think I have it correct from my great
Correct.
manner this is. So, okay. All right. And I do think we will, we've done quite a bit here today. And I'm excited, as I said. Do we have any more comments or questions at all in this direction for Joe or Matthew? If not, we can move on. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Just one question. Is there, I was looking at the chart that Mary Patty gave us, which was a really good one in this. There's 358 units listed on just on the top part of the paper before you even get down to Hager. Okay. Are there actual affordable apartments here already? Forgive me for not driving all around town and looking and maybe not knowing, but I mean, is like Pondside considered to be apartments or? Well, I guess what I'm saying, is there any objection to like just straight apartment buildings?
Well, there are 3 apartment buildings down on Boxwood, which is at 15 Great Road, down
Yeah.
near the old birds, and
Yeah.
36 of those apartments are affordable.
Okay.
Those are apartments.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you.
And I think that Pondside and Village, Littleton Green, those are all apartments.
Right. And for Shattuck Street too, for that matter, I guess.
Yeah, but those are state, not Littleton. That's the
Okay.
housing authority, they're not run by Littleton per se.
Okay, but there's no objection by the town per se against apartments as opposed to houses like condos and houses. Nobody's really against apartments, are they?
I think some people are. I think it really is very dependent on how it's framed and how the warrant article is written. And
Gotcha.
there has been some very significant pushback against bylaws that allow dense housing.
And where it's going to be.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
Not in
Right.
my backyard.
That's right.
Yep. You hear that a lot. Okay.
Exactly.
All right. I mean, because there's some wonderful senior housing, in the local area. Okay, over in Harvard is at 24 units. Okay, and it's apartments. Okay, but it makes no sense to even bother trying to solicit that kind of activity in Littleton if it's just going to get shot down. So, I guess I just wanted to have that straight in my head.
that's one of the challenges the Station Area Committee is very much aware of as we move forward, is we want to bring a proposal to town meeting that's going to get approved. And planning on like that, that's one of the design constraints, right? Is the warrant article. And that's
Okay.
the way it is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right. So we're ready to move on to our new business, which is updates mainly, and we probably covered quite a bit of that maybe in this discussion, but I'm going to go through them just to make sure we haven't missed anything, if that's okay with everyone. And Mark, do you have anything you'd like to add about where the vision, we kind of touched on that, where your committee is at? You had a meeting a week ago today, your second meeting.
So we had a meeting a week ago. We're planning on sending out a survey to the residents on asking, you know, what you would like to see in a senior center, what it means to you and things like that. We're planning on finalizing that survey at our next meeting and sending it out shortly thereafter, having it open for 6 or 8 weeks. And we're going to start looking around at area senior centers of both towns of comparable size, senior centers that have been built recently, and so on and so forth. Figuring out what they how they approach their building, what they, you know, what services they provide, difficulties they had in getting their buildings, things that they would do differently, so on and so forth. So those activities should both be starting sometime in December. Did I sum that up pretty well, Ashley?
Thank you.
Yes, great summary, Mark. Thank you.
And Maureen, I think that update from the Affordable Housing Trust, I think we've gotten quite a bit of information already. Do you have anything else you need to add or would like to add? You're muted.
Just in terms of, there are 2 new LRAPs that have been approved, and there are 2 applications for the emergency housing emergency wrap. How did you say that, Ashley? ERAP? ERAP. And other than that, everything else I had written, we've already discussed.
Great. Thank you.
I have to hop off at 3. Is there anything else on the agenda for me?
I do not believe so.
Okay.
Thank you though, Matthew. We really appreciate your time
Thank you for having
And
me.
your input.
and all of your input, and you're welcome anytime.
Thank you. I'll come to all of them. It was one of my campaign promises, so I'm actually surprised that, you know, it's come out right. But thank you very much. It's really, this has been exciting to talk to you, and I'm really glad these goals align. It's great. So we'll be talking soon.
Yeah, we'll continue our efforts. So as I said, it's exciting. So thank you.
Yep, thank you, Matt.
Joe.
Thank you.
Yes. And thanks to Joe Layden too. It's been great.
Yeah.
Actually, and then we have it's interesting because we do have an update from the Transportation Advisory Council. Susan is our representative on that. And I was thinking about, oh, here's a little job when Mark was talking about the lack of sidewalks in certain areas in town here. So, you know, made me think of the TAC. So what's up with what's going on, Susan?
Well, they've had 2, I've gone to 2 meetings. They've had 2 meetings. They only meet every 2 months or so.
Right.
So it's not, at least it's not a meeting that's really, you know, busy. Although they talk about so many things. In my first meeting, my head just exploded because it was hard to follow what they were talking about. But a couple of things from actually probably from both of the meetings that just are of general interest. They talk about different grants that other groups have gotten that connect with transportation. not just transportation like vehicles and vans and that kind of thing, but also bike trails within the town. They're trying to connect with a wider unit of bike trails in other towns to make it a whole Metro West area of bike paths, and also using existing streets. They talked about doing some work on the trails between the Cooper complex and the Wellington Drive complex, which is off of Goldsmith Street. And that would make a loop that could be a walking trail from the common, and you could loop all the way back to the common. And the sidewalk from Cooper to Donlands has been worked on this summer and is in much better shape than it was. Oh, the other big thing was last month, talking about up on Taylor Street, Taylor and Foster Street, the Amazon facility that is before the planning board at the moment. And part of that discussion for the transportation committee was shuttles for the people that would work at this Amazon facility. It would be, they call it the last mile, and as 300 vans would come out of that facility every day to deliver Amazon products. So there's mucho drivers that would be coming into town. So they talked about using Crosstown Connect, which exists in town, for connecting businesses. And then we had a presentation by a Q Ride group that is trying to get into the idea of small shuttle and on-demand transportation. And that's most of the highlights, I think.
Interesting, though. It is interesting.
Ashley, I hope, is shaking her head, because Ashley's there always to give updates from the EHS COA vans. So she was, I think I covered the ones that are of
Yes, you did a great job, Susan.
Thanks, Susan. So if you can, every time you have a meeting, just give us a heads up so that we can, get you on the agenda to hear the feedback.
Yes, I will. I'll send
Thank you.
those have, those meetings are, I don't know if they're recorded. I forgot to look. They must be. But just like the Affordable Housing Trust, they're not available on LCTV's on demand or YouTube. But I can certainly, they're in their agenda. The link is in the agenda. And when a meeting's coming up, I can let the board know if I think there's something that people would want to.
That would be helpful. That would be good.
That's easy. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, and I have the last agenda item I wanted to mention. I'm not saying we have to do anything about this, but I wanted the board to be aware. And when we're talking about, cutting back on the size of the Affordable Housing Subcommittee, there's always other jobs that need to be attended to. And one of them is the Minuteman Senior Services. The COA board has been the person and the link for the Minuteman Services, Senior Services program. And that's the group that runs our diner that, I haven't been down there for so long, I can't remember her name.
Gail.
Pardon me?
Gail.
Gail, thank you, Gail Dalton, senior moment. Gail Dalton works for, actually. And, the last person, I think it was Jean Johnson, maybe. I don't even know if we've had anybody that's been doing it. Did we have somebody? Mary. Mary did it for a while there, didn't you, Patty? Mary?
Just
You did it for a while. Didn't you, Minuteman Home Services?
no, I only went for twice.
Oh, okay. But we do need a representative for that, and it is a little bit of work. because it requires attending. Now it would be a Zoom meeting, but they always had to attend a monthly meeting held in Bedford at their headquarters. And they provide the link back to, Nicole, Ashley, especially for the, coordination between Minuteman Home Services and Gail Dalton. So that's an important, another job for a COA board member. So I'm throwing it out there for consideration, and I will mention it again next month. But if you have questions about it, about what's involved, please ask and speak up. But it does require time, because it is, I think the meetings are in the morning and you're there pretty much to lunchtime, pretty much. So we can find out more. I know Ashley can get in touch with the head of that program for us and find out a little bit more as we go along. But as I said, there's always something that needs to be attended to. So that was really an information only item at this point, unless somebody is jumping to do it. And other than that, I think we have finalized our agenda and gone through all of the items. I want to go back to the wording of the goals, and I think probably the best thing to do is to put the draft together, send it out to you all, and get some feedback, and then we can come together on a final decision at our next meeting. Is that okay with everybody? Oh, Mark?
You forgot the reports.
I'm going to come back to those.
Okay.
Just wanted to finalize my thinking on the goal situation, because is that okay with everybody that we do that? I'll put it together this week and get it out to you. Now that we kind of have solidified the housing subcommittee, affordable housing subcommittee issue. So, all right. So really quickly, director's report. You all have received a copy of Ashley's report and Amy's report. So Ashley or Amy, who wants to go first?
I'm happy to jump in.
Okay.
So in my director's report, I had mentioned completing the annual report for the Executive Office of Elder Affairs. And I just wanted to highlight a few numbers. I think the numbers really do speak to the amount of work that the department does on a day-to-day basis. So this is last fiscal year, so July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. We serviced 1,170 individuals. Our outreach department assisted with 746 individuals by providing assistance with food shopping, wellness checks, employment services, just to name a few. 92 individuals benefited from our medical loan closet. The Meals on Wheels program delivered 100 meals per week. 406 individuals participated in recreation and social programs. And we provided 2,971 trips total to 99 individuals. So I'm waiting on one outstanding piece of information for that report, but once it's complete, I'll share it with the board. And then I wanted to make mention of our questionnaire that we have available on the website. It's also included in the November newsletter on the very back page. To date, we've had 50 folks complete the survey. The deadline is November 20th. And the focus is on scaling up the operations. How have people been staying in touch with our department? If people have been participating in virtual programs, if not, what is the reason why? And then the last question, when we are able to have programs back in town hall, what programs are folks most interested in participating in? So again, only 50 responses to date. So if you haven't had a chance to complete the questionnaire, I'd really appreciate it if you could send it to your friend. But primarily, folks are staying informed and connected through our email communication and our monthly broadcaster. Surprisingly, 30% of people are not interested in participating in programs inside the building due to COVID. 70% of people, again, of the 50 that responded, did express interest in coming back. I also wanted to highlight a community partnership with the library. So on the front page of the November newsletter, we introduced a new program. It's a virtual program with the author Ashton Applewhite, and she's the author of the book This Chair Rocks, a manifesto against ageism. The library has gone ahead and purchased 15 books, and she is going to give us a book talk on December 4th at 10:30. So if you're interested, I'd encourage you to go to the library, check out a book, and then I believe it's December 18th, actually, the library is going to have a follow-up book discussion. So just kudos to the library for working with us and collaborating with us on this program.
Ashley,
Mm-hmm.
did you say that on December 4th, there's going to be like a Zoom?
Yes.
And is that
So
link
it is-
going to be sent out?
Yes, so it is. So just like all of our other programs, called the EHS department will provide participants with the Zoom meeting link. We will be recording that program as well to be later shown on cable for the folks that don't have access.
That sounds very interesting, actually. Yeah.
You can probably also register for the program on the library website.
Oh, that's a good thought, Mark.
I don't know if they are fielding registration.
Okay.
That's some place to check.
Okay. Any questions for Ashley? If not, thank you, Ashley.
Sure.
And Amy, finally. You know, Amy, does it matter to you if we move you up at all? Would it be easier for you?
Oh, that's fine. Wherever I'm in on here is fine with me.
Okay, I always feel bad. so, okay. Go ahead.
So we have our vans continuing to operate on Wednesdays and Fridays. The no contact pantry deliveries are happening on Fridays still. We provided pantry deliveries to 14 households throughout the month of October. The LRAP and ERAP applications are still being accepted. I spoke about this a little bit on Anita and Susan's highlights show this month too. So we have 9 vacancies in the Littleton Rental Assistance Program at this time. The Emergency Rental Assistance Program, we have 2 active applicants enrolled, and we have 2 pending. We had a couple events. So we had our Bridges Grab and Go event that went off very well on October 30th. And even though the weather was not great, it was freezing. But everybody came, and it seems like it went very well. Everybody enjoyed the food. So thank you to Bridges. Fuel assistance applications are able to be completed still and submitted through April 30th. So if people in the community need help with applying for fuel assistance, they need to give me a call and get scheduled to come in, and we can go over the whole process. The support groups are continuing to be offered virtually. The information on the meeting times for those is in our broadcaster each month. And it is still open enrollment for Medicare, so you have until December 7th to call and get on the schedule to meet with Kathy.
Busy, busy, busy. It's amazing to me how busy you are given everything, and how limited, you know, people just don't see each other anymore. So it's like, but work happens, and it does. So thank you. Do I have a motion to accept the director and outreach coordinators reports?
So moved.
Whoops, who did what? Maureen? And who
Oh,
seconded?
I'll second it.
David seconded. Thank you, David. Okay, roll call. Let's see. Susan,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
thank you. Maureen,
Yes.
Anita,
Yes.
David,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Ann Lee,
Yes.
and Marge is a yes also. So thank you very much. Do we have any other business?
I do.
You do.
I do.
All right.
If I had been able to get on, it would have come under announcements, but we, Patty and myself and Amy met with the TRED committee. I don't know whether this got brought up before, but there were 13 applicants for the TRED assistance program. And we really have worked hard, and all of the applicants are getting some assistance for the TRED program. But what I really wanted to talk about is we need people to contribute to the TRED. The donations, if anybody does donate, are tax deductible. And just as an FYI, Ed Sweeney's has been donating his tips. And so that's really kind of cool. And the other thing is that there is a way on the town website for people to donate to the TRED fund. And so if people are willing to assist in donating, that's just go to the TRED fund on the website, and you can click on the link to donate and make a donation. Anita, did I forget you?
Yes.
When I said we were on
Yeah. But that's okay.
I'm sorry, Anita.
That's okay.
Anita was there
The only
too.
thing I would, the only other thing I would add to that is that the committee asked me to go back and talk to Marge about possibly putting an article in the newspaper, or, just to get it out there. So the more visibility that we have, the more options we have at getting something. And I did relay that message to Marge, and I know she's working on it.
Yep.
And as Fred said, the success of the program depends on the donations that we receive.
That's right.
Yep. And I certainly, we can, certainly get information out, and it's so critical to disseminate information. We know that, and to educate people about everything. So just have to keep mentioning it, and I will put something together and run it by Ashley before it goes any further. But anyway, when I'm done. So, okay. Thank you, Maureen.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other business? Then we can entertain a motion to adjourn. We're
So moved.
13 minutes late.
So moved.
So moved. Maureen, who's seconding?
Second.
Anita, seconded. All right, one more time, folks. Susan.
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
Maureen.
Yes.
Anita.
Yes.
David.
Yes.
Mark.
Yes.
Marge. Ann Lee.
Yes.
And myself, Marge is yes also. So unanimous vote. Thank you all. Very informative meeting, I think. And